Welcome to session 7. And what we're going to talk about today is something that comes up for a lot of people once they've spent a little bit of time exploring their world from the inside out. And what often happens is people will begin to experience, and I hope this is true for you, they'll begin to experience some of those quieter feelings, some of those deeper feelings. And they may even experience moments of insight where they suddenly see things that they've looked at for ages, but they see them in a whole new way. And at some point, people start having an experience that I used to call absence of, because they come in and they say, well, okay, this is all very interesting. And I go, well, what's wrong? And they go, nothing's wrong. And I go, well, are you upset? And they go, no, I'm not upset. And when I keep asking, what they wind up saying is, well, I'm worried that I'm not worried enough. I'm a little confused. I'm a little disoriented because I'm used to really worrying about stuff, and I'm just not that worried about stuff. And I'm worried that if I don't start worrying soon, I'm going to just disengage from life. I'm never going to do anything. I mean, these feelings are beautiful and everything, but I mean, I'm not going to do anything. If it doesn't matter what results I produce, well, then why would I ever do anything? And that's a really useful place to get to in this conversation. Because when you get to that place, you're now kind of have the basis to explore something that really opens up your life in a way that you may have never even considered. And that's what we're going to talk about, is the sort of different paths that people can take through life. And most of us, the first path we learn to take through life is what I would call the path of the victim, where it feels like we have no choice about what to do. And we have no choice about what to think. We have no choice about how our life's going to be. We're just a victim of circumstances, or a victim of our thinking, or a victim of the other people in our life. And we do our best, and sometimes we do really well. But essentially, we have no choice but to go through life doing the best we can to cope with the hand that we're given. Now, as it happens, you can be a pretty successful victim, right? Sometimes the hand you're given is pretty good and you do pretty well. But somebody who succeeds on the path of the victim still feels like a victim, because they know that but for the hand they were given, it's nothing to do with them. And so they still feel hopeless. They still feel helpless. If they're very successful, they still feel incredibly insecure that they might lose everything that they've got because they don't feel like they earned it. Well, at some point, a lot of people find out that there's a second path. And this is what I call the empowered path. Some people call it the path of the owner, and they contrast the owner and the victim. But on the empowered path, I have choice. And I start to see that I always have choice. I have a choice about what to do in response to what happens, or I have a choice about how to think about what happens, or maybe even all I've got is a choice about my attitude, whether to accept what happens or to fight against it. But from that empowered place, we start to see there's a lot we can do in this world. And there are choices to make, and I don't have to just take what's mine. I can go out and if there isn't a path, this was one of my favorite quotes from Hannibal, not Hannibal Lecter, but Hannibal from the Punic Wars, who before he kind of took the elephants and marched off, he said, you know, we will either find a way or we will make one. And it's great, and it feels really good, especially if you're a guy and you like that testosterone feeling. Like, that's the empowered path. We're going to do this. If it's to be, it's up to me. And the thing about the empowered path is it is exciting. And it's what we call the hero's journey. Because when we're on the empowered path, right, we overcome the odds and we fight the dragon and we beat the dragon and we come home and we get the girl, or we're rescued by the prince, and life is great. But what happens on the empowered path is we start to get tired, because constantly fighting against life is tiring, and constantly trying to be in control of everything that happens is tiring. And over time, most people who take the empowered path, even if they do all their work to relax and practice, okay, I've been doing it, so now I've got to empower myself to relax. Okay, oh yeah, and if you get caught up in the empowered path, at some point, you're almost certain to get burned out. You're almost certain to get exhausted. And so for me, I always thought those were the only two choices. As a victim, you really have no choice about what to do. When you're empowered, it's all about choice. But what if you were to walk the enlightened path? What if instead of trying to be the predominant creative force in your life, you recognize that the predominant creative force in nature is nature itself, is this intelligence behind life, is this deeper wisdom that we automatically tap into when our own thinking gets a little bit quieter and our own feeling gets a little bit sweeter. Or I sometimes call it the path of the soul, because it almost feels that when you're following wisdom, instead of trying to reach one goal on the outside to change your circumstances so you can change your life, when you go from being goal-oriented to inner-directed, the path that unfolds so perfectly, it's almost as if your own soul was laying that path out, one brick at a time.